Let's say that you need to create an array of a given size in JavaScript and also want to initialize it so that all the values in that array have been set to a given initial value. That's quite easy to do using the new array constructor and the Array.fill method. Let's take a look at this in action. So to get started, to create an array of a given size, I'm going to use the new array constructor. So I'll say new array with a capital A, and then I'm going to pass in the size of the array that I want to create. So in this case, I want to create an array with 10 elements. So I'm just going to say new array 10, which is now gone and created an array with 10 empty elements. Now, none of the values in this array have been set, and if we wanted to go and initialize them, we could go and write a for loop, but it's much easier to use the fill method instead. So I'll go back here, and when creating the array, I will say new array, and then I'll call .fill on that. And fill is going to let us go and initialize all values in that array to whatever we pass in as the first argument to fill. In this case, if I wanted to go and initialize all the values in the array to 1, I can just say new array.fill, and then with 1 here, and now I've created an array with 10 elements where all of the elements in it are 1. Fill lets you initialize the array using whatever value you would like. So I could actually call fill with a string here, so we could say fill and then ABC, so that now the array has ABC for all the values in it. You can even fill an array with an object value that you pass in, but there are some things to be aware of with that. So let's quickly take a look at how this would work. So I could create an object here, so I'll say const obj and create my object. And then I'm going to go and fill an array using that object. So I'll say const array, and then I'll say new array, and then fill that with the object. So again, I'm doing the same thing, but I'm passing in the object as the thing that we want to go and fill the array with. So now I have an array that has the object as all of the values in that array. So I can go and inspect my array here and see that sure enough, I have that object as all the values in the array. If I then go and modify the object, however, so let's go and set a property on it, and then I go back and look at my array, you'll notice that all of the values in the array have now been updated. And that is because the array is sharing the same object for all of the entries in it. So that same object is being used for every single entry inside of that array. This is something that only happens if you're going and using objects or array types when you're filling a value into the array. If you're using strings or numbers, this is not something you have to worry about, as those ones will not go and be shared between the different entries in the array. But if you're trying to fill an array using objects or arrays, just be aware that that object or array is actually going to be shared between all of the filled in elements in the array rather than being unique to each individual one. One other thing to note is that fill also works when dealing with typed arrays. So if I wanted to create a uint8 array and initialize all the values in that to a specific number, I can go and use fill as well. So I could say new uint8 array. I'll pass in the size of the array. So again, I'm going to say 10. And then I can call fill on this and then pass in the number value that I want to use to initialize that array. And now I've created a new uint8 array where all the values in that array have been initialized to 1. So that's how you can use fill to create a new array where all the entries have been initialized to a given value. It's definitely a lot shorter than trying to write a loop to do this yourself.